Hi, you're watching TV International with Maryam Namazie. I'm really pleased to begin the television programs again. I know a lot of you have been asking about them, and it's been a couple of years now since we had to stop doing them, but I'm glad that we're back. And for the first show, we've got the brilliant Hamid Taqvaee with us, and we're going to be speaking about the 99% movement. Welcome, Hamid Taqvaee.
Thank you.
Well, we've been hearing from the protesters. It's been amazing to see these various protests across
The world.
many cities across the world. One of the things that keeps coming up is the fact that it's got to do with greed. And I suppose my first question to you is, if we regulate the markets, will things be better and will people be less greedy?
Yeah. Actually, the question of greed is what people say because they were told to think so. I mean, first when it happened in 2008, everybody was talking about greed. All the mainstream media, all the politicians, everybody, as if there are a bunch of greedy executives in Wall Street and bankers. They created the whole problem, and that was the image that people got. That, okay, yeah, something is wrong with the system, and that the question, that the problem, the real problem, is the greed and greedy people. Obviously, it's not the reason. I mean, even if you can say it's greed, but the greed is what system needs. It's created by system. You can say this way that. The problem is not greedy people, it's a greedy system. And if you want that system to work, you need greed. And that greed, of course, is personified, and you can see as some bankers, as some shareholders, and that sort of thing. So the problem is the system, not the greed of some people.
And in a sense, this whole issue of greed, it's often also blamed on the population at large. They say we're responsible for overborrowing, living a life that we don't have money for.
Yeah.
So it sort of gives the impression that it's a behavioral problem rather than a systematic
Actually, the
one.
question of credits and the fact that people have to borrow in order to live, meaning there is no other way. As if you say, okay, it is blaming people because they just want to live, and because they have to borrow to live, so they created the problem. Again, here we have a system that works based on credits, credits to the banks, to the shareholders, to the capitalists, and credits to people. People are consumers. They have to borrow from the banks in order to pay their rent, they pay their mortgages, they pay their bills, for everything.
So, I mean, basically, what you're talking about, it's not greed; it's a system that's
yeah. From any aspect, when you look at the problem, you see it's a system that every part is needed by the other part. I mean, it matches. It is the whole system. The system is based on credit cards, based on a mortgage system, based on greed, if you want to. So the whole thing works and works this way. You cannot say, okay, only this part is not good. Just take it out, switch it off. The rest is okay.
But
the rest is not going to work.
That, there are people who say, well, I mean, even the 99% protesters are using things that are the products of capitalism, from the social networking sites to the clothes they're wearing to the tents that they bought in Tesco or some big supermarket.
Yeah. Okay, are you sure that the products of capitalism, products of people who are out of job now? I mean, everything that we are using, or the people in the Wall Street or occupiers use, is the thing that they created in the first place. They created themselves. I mean, I don't think that any capitalist, any banker, any shareholders have ever seen a production line. I've been in a factory or in shop floor. Never. So people who created those wealth are people who cannot afford them, cannot live without borrowing money from, again, those owners of everything. So when people look, when we say 90% against 1%, is a question of it's the way that the wealth is shared by the population. I mean, according to the statistics, 1% of people in U.S. they own more than 40-something% of the whole wealth. That's the way it is. So Now we say, okay, who created that part? Who created that 40% or the 100% of the wealth? Of course, people who have been working, and not people who just own the capital or own the banks. I mean, it's obvious.
I mean, it's interesting because the protests are not only protests against an economic system, the inequalities that people are facing, the fact that they can't afford healthcare, many things anymore. But it's also a grievance against the political system, which is more interesting because oftentimes parliamentary democracy is shown to be the hope of people everywhere. It's something that everyone's fighting for. What's your take on the
Actually, in this
failure
movement,
of the
you already
system?
see slogans like that. Both parties, Republicans and Democrats, they are Wall Street parties. People know that. I mean, it's the 1% is not a matter of just how the wealth in the society is distributed. The thing is that the power, they own the power. They own the military. They decide on all the major issues on foreign policies, on national policies. They own the Wall Street. They own the Congress, the Washington lobbyists, everything. I mean, from any aspect, political power, social power, economical power is in the hand of 1% of the people. So it's not just a question of wealth. It's a question of rights, a question of having some effect on everyday life, on politics, on social matters, on culture, on everything. They control, that 1% control the media. The mainstream media is controlled by them. They control their foreign policy. They decide on every major subject in any aspect of the social life. And so again, that's a protest against that elite of the society who controls everything.
I mean, can you just switch the financial markets off? I mean, what's the solution?
No,
to
you
that?
cannot just switch one part of the system off, but you can switch the whole thing off. I mean, you cannot say, in other words, you cannot reform somehow. You cannot have capitalism without bankers, without greed. You cannot have capitalism without Wall Street. We cannot have capitalism without bailouts now these days, without, I don't know, tens of billions or trillions of dollars that you have to pump into your bank system, and it still doesn't work, of course. But so the thing is that everybody says that, okay, capitalism is good. If only we could get rid of bankers. We cannot do that,
right.
You know?
It's sort of like unemployment is part of it, inequality
Everything,
is part of it.
I mean, it's the way the system works.
So what's the solution? I mean, socialism, some people will say that's really passé and old-fashioned.
Yeah, the problem is not old-fashioned. I don't know why socialism should be old-fashioned.
I know, exactly.
If you are jobless, if you still think that you have no rights, and if you are thinking that the society is controlled by 1% of the people, then socialism about those issues.
Do you think these?
I know that socialism, as say Soviet Union socialism, of course, is old-fashioned. It's gone, but it had nothing to do with the socialism in the first place. So socialism is a movement that answers those issues and show you how to get rid of that system. That's socialism, and that's a question of everybody. Everybody are thinking about that. You know, people will think that we have parliament, we have parties, we have, so to speak, democracy, but still we have nothing to do with the whole thing that's going on. Nobody counts us in. Nobody asks us what to do. They make peace, they make war, they bail out, they do whatever they want to do,
banks,
and have nothing to do with us unless every 4 years I go and elect somebody that I know what's going to happen because it's the same system again. So socialism is a real problem, and it's not old-fashioned until, of course, poverty is old-fashioned. Then of
That
course,
will be a good day. Thank you very much, Hamid Taqvaee. I'd love to hear what you think about this discussion. Once it's posted on the website, on the blog, and shown on TV, you're welcome to comment, and I will ask Hamid Taqvaee questions that you raise in future programs. Thank you for joining us. Until next week, goodbye.